All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Medhat Galal. I'm Vice President of Product Solutions Engineering. With me, Jacob Rank, Senior Manager, Product Management from Engineering as well, and Roeder from MuleSoft. Thanks for coming this afternoon for our session. I've been with Appian for 12 years, and I spent most of my career at Appian in consulting. I ran product training and COE. My partner in crime, Jake, actually, and I transferred to engineering a few months ago. Because of our institutional knowledge and integration with years of consulting and seeing some of the challenges a lot of our customers and the market in general have seen with integrations. So we went directly to engineering and figured we would apply our knowledge and expertise directly to bring you some changes today that hopefully will be exciting for you to see. So with that, before I get started, my 3-year-old special needs son actually asked me where I'm traveling, and I couldn't really explain to him conference. So I figured you guys could help me do something a little fun for him. And instead of explaining what a conference is to him, maybe I can show him. So I'm going to do a little selfie trick. I'm asking you to stand up and do a little zombie growl, if you don't mind. Is that okay? And try to catch it on camera, and I can explain to him what a conference really looks like. Is that okay? It's easy to show these kids pictures as opposed to use words with them. All right? So you're going to stand up? Right. I'm going to get this room all psyched up. All right. You're going to do a zombie posture. And I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to try to scare everybody in all the other rooms around. All right? So let's see if I can get this done. All right. 1, 2, 3. Zombie growl. One more for the other side. One more. Zombie. Nice. I really appreciate this. You're very generous. My son will be extremely excited. Anyway, on to the actual subject why we're here. So we got a pretty good agenda for you today. We're going to talk about Appian, just a little grounding as to why we're doing what we're doing. We're going to talk about the MuleSoft relationship. We're really excited about that. Obviously, the press release has hit the road on Monday. We're excited to have him here. Brett, thank you for being here with us. Jake is going to really talk about the product and some of the exciting things that we've been building over the past few months and the things that will come as well. We've got an exciting show for you there. Brett is then going to cover some of the capabilities in MuleSoft. If you're not familiar with some of the things they do, it would be really exciting innovative things that you guys are doing. We're really excited to have you with us. And I'm going to end the session with some success stories and hopefully can get a lot of questions from you today. So with that, we're going to talk about digital transformations. As you've seen throughout the entire conference, obviously digital transformation, the ability to transform the enterprise, where you don't need to build software directly yourself, means really power. You need a lot of power to do this. You can't have a software as a toy. So that's what Appian is all about. We do this in a very direct way. We have a single integrated suite. You have a one installer. It's not a complex product to install. It covers a lot of the areas and a lot of the facilities and the features that you would need to build whatever you can imagine in your business. Whatever it is that you need to build, be it in insurance, in financial services, claims management, store inspection, and all the use cases and exciting use cases a lot of you are actually building. It comes from that powerful integrated suite that is Appian today. But the power is not just below the surface, skin deep. It's also a very powerful and intuitive interface. Your users are no longer accepting really boring, ugly interfaces. They need them not only be powerful, but they need them to be pretty and beautiful as well. It's the standard consumerization of applications in the enterprise. They need to have a really pleasant experience. Being a product that is joy to use makes for a much more productive worker, and Appian facilitates that as well with a strong relationship and intuitive UIs. Easy navigation allows your users to be extremely productive and efficient. That's the power of Appian as well. It's not just pretty; it's also very powerful. All of that is powered by the standard sale components. This is not only one of our pride and joy and patented technology. It grows with you. It's backward compatible. It's also future-proofing your applications as you change it from time to time. So we have standard components that'll grow. We'll get more layouts. We'll get more components. And as you see out there with the entire conference, you're going to see some really exciting things from Appian into the near future. Now, as they say, with power comes great responsibility too. Okay, well, with power, I'd like to say comes great speed. If a software is really powerful but slow and brittle, you're not really achieving your dreams of digital transformation really fast. So that's where Appian also really shines, where we bring to you a tremendous amount of flexibility that you normally would not experience in traditional software engineering. If you're building code itself, just shuttling that piece of code from the developer workstation all the way to the hands of the user that will use it is an arduous process that we take on your behalf to give you the pleasure of working with Appian platform. So we do that with low-code designers. Drag and drop, what you see is what you get, all web-based interfaces. So to me, the power and speed is what really sets Appian apart when it comes to building these enterprise applications that are a pleasure to use, very powerful to build, and adapt to your business changes as well. So with that, I want to ask the people in the room, how many of you are actually existing MuleSoft users already? 1, 2, 3, raise your hand. Okay, yeah, Bob, we talked today as well. That's nice. Hopefully a lot more of you will be using MuleSoft and Appian in the same place. And that kind of corroborates one of the theories that we've had over the past few months when we started that relationship with MuleSoft. Really excited to have it. But just to recap really quickly, so Appian is not just skin pretty and also business deep when it comes to the applications you can build. We also have strong integration capabilities, both on the standard-based and the connector-based, that Jake will highlight a little later in the session. We have an extensible framework that allows you to talk to the deep end of your enterprise systems. But where things are really different, when you have a mutual relationship like Appian and MuleSoft, they really excel in having a very clean surface area and entry point to the rest of the enterprise. Regardless of how ugly some of the old systems are or how modern they may be, having a single API-led approach to the integration is really great. Now, what sets this relationship even further apart is that we already have existing use cases where a lot of our customers have both Appian and MuleSoft working side by side. And we hope to invest even more in that relationship to benefit you, to move as fast as you can. Where Appian can build an application, can integrate, that's great. If you have MuleSoft already and you want to capitalize on that, go ahead and do so as well. We're going to make sure that that relationship from a technology standpoint is as strong as it could be to benefit you, our customers, and our prospects as well. So with that, Brett.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for having us here. We really appreciate it. Actually, our headquarters is about 3 blocks down the street. So if you do want to stop by, you're more than welcome. We actually just went public a couple weeks ago, so we're Mule on the NYSE now. We have over 1,000 customers, as you can see, and up close to 900 people that we have. The product, kind of like Appian, we have one product. There's one runtime, one install, or one studio, and one admin. So there's not a lot of products that you have to download and install and configure on their own, which really sets us apart from some of our competition. When you think about where we kind of fit in, it's really on the producer and consumer side, if you want to think of it, for Appian. On the consumer side, Appian as a consumer, we do have almost 200 connectors for all sorts of different systems, from Stripe to PayPal to BMC, whether it be legacy systems like SAP and PeopleSoft, or newer systems like Salesforce and Zoho CRM. So lots of different things already pre-built, pre-tested, pre-tuned for you to take advantage of. And as we'll see later, it's really drag and drop and click and configure versus writing code. On the producer side, if you have business processes that you want to expose for external partners to leverage, or web apps, for example, to hook into, we provide the security, the governance, the API management capabilities, if you will, to ensure those are used by the right people in the right volumes and provide that governance that's out there. The platform itself, a web-based platform, just similar to the Appian platform. And as you see down at the bottom, some of the things that we bring to the table. The API management we talked about. Exchange is a repository that shows all the services that are available, whether it be Appian processes that you've exposed or APIs. And the rest of the capabilities that we could get into later. Everybody has to have a NASCAR slide to put up. So this is our NASCAR slide, but a lot of the common customers that we talked about, but also some of the biggest organizations in the world are already leveraging MuleSoft to provide their integrations.
All right, thanks, Brett. I drew the short straw and didn't get the mobile mic, so I'll be standing here and talking into this microphone. The first thing I want to talk about is just kind of giving a quick overview of where are we with Appian and integration today. We'll talk about all of the current features before showing you some of the new stuff. So the first thing we have, looking at kind of, Brett described it, inbound, or the consumer and producer, right? When Appian's calling out, we have various connectors and also standard protocol approaches for integration. So the first thing is connectors. We have 6 connectors to name systems, the ones shown here. These are things where you can use out of the box to easily connect and call these systems to do updates or to do queries, whatever it is that you're interacting with those systems. Then, of course, we also have a range of standards protocols. So if it's not one of those specific connectors, you can still access it out of the box using HTTP or SOAP. A lot of good features built around that to be able to do UI-based integration or process-based integration. And again, because you can use these things in Appian as reusable objects, or they're available in different places, right? The power of the Appian platform allows you to leverage integration within a process, or leverage it in an expression, or leverage it from directly from one of your UIs. All of the areas of Appian are able to leverage these reusable components because of the platform aspect. So on the other side, when you're calling to Appian, we also have the ability to expose web APIs to the rest of the enterprise. So this is where if you want to query data that's in Appian, or you want to take action on data that's in Appian, you can expose a web API and create a custom endpoint for someone else to call to query your record data. You've got all this great record data that you've built up in Appian. Why not allow somebody else access to it, right? We don't want to be the only ones that use that data. You want to have access to it outside. Or if you want to be able to start processes remotely, right? That's another great use case for using a web API. Just expose it. You can call any of the processes in Appian and call them through an HTTP web API. Now, with web APIs and looking at our recent MuleSoft partnership, what we've done is we've gone and created an Appian API app, which is actually built on our own web API object. That has been exposed in the MuleSoft Anypoint Exchange. So we're in there along with these other guys like Facebook and Google. You can download that, and that describes the set of services that Appian is providing, which is things like looking up all your process models, looking up all the process instances in Appian, what are the tasks for those process instances, kicking off a new process. So now you've got a way to describe exactly what those calls are, how to call them, and you can use a tool like MuleSoft to quickly test those services, and then integrate them into your other integration flows. So you can access the Appian data as Appian as a producer of data rather than Appian as a consumer. And if that's great for system-to-system integration. If what you're actually looking for, there's us in the market, if what you're looking for is direct UI integration, we also have embedded interfaces. So you can take that same interface that you built for your task flows or for your records in Appian and pull them into your existing portal. And that's with your branding and with SSO. So that's another method, and there's Appian, right? It's actually an Appian form embedded inside your existing portal. So that's direct UI integration. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can actually integrate with Appian today. And just summarizing what those are, right? We've got connectors and the smart services that allow you to call from Appian out to either make changes in other systems or get data from other systems. You've got web APIs, which allow you to call from those systems coming into Appian to read data or make changes. And then you've got the ability to take things that you've built in Appian, those UIs, and actually embed them in your external portal. So that's kind of the state of Appian integration up to now. And what I want to show now is some of you have already seen it. Maybe you stopped by the demo booth this afternoon, so you may have seen some of the things that we're already going to show. But this is the new Appian Integration Designer. So I'm actually going to talk about the Appian Integration Designer in the context of a number of interesting demos. We're going to do some face detection, social media, a number of different things. So I'll just walk through those and start with this first one. So we're going to use Microsoft Azure's Face API to do facial recognition.
And of course, you do it 99 times and one time.
And we might be doing it live, which will be even more exciting. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. So this video worked. See if we can get it going. Nope. All right. Well, sorry for that.
Normally, you have the video recording in case the demo doesn't.
We just played the track now.
All right, well now you guys get to see my amazing reverse demo capabilities. So I will show you this screen over here, and I will turn around and look at it so that I can actually see what I'm doing. So we've got a number of demos here, and the first one I want to show you is the facial recognition. So we've taken a Microsoft Azure API, and we've pulled it into Appian, and it allows you to take an image, and in this case it's an image referenced via URL, but they offer also, you can send the content to them. And you can click on these guys, and hey, it actually looks at the face. It can identify gender, age, it can identify emotion. So this guy's very sad. You've got a nice baby who is showing up as quite surprised. You've got a more neutral expression. And then you got this girl here who's very angry. And you've got some of our fine presenters up here which seem to have much more nuanced emotions. I guess that comes with age. but not for Medhat. He's still pretty neutral. And so you can see, he may not be happy that we like throw up his age right on the screen here, and I would not recommend using this with your spouse or significant other. It'll get you into trouble. That's my experience, at least. So how are we actually making this happen? So let's flip behind the scenes and actually look at the integration that's powering this. So we've created a new object, which is actually called an integration. So if you want to build an integration, just build an integration. And of course, because it's an object, I can look at all the integrations that are in this application. And in this case, I want to pick the, apologies here, face detection. There we go. All right, so this is the integration designer, and what we're trying to do with the integration designer is give you a low-code environment where you can configure an HTTP-based request and do a rapid test cycle to make sure that you've got it working, that everything is coming back the way you expected. You can experiment, which is always a big part of learning how to do an integration with a new system, especially like a custom system. If you don't have a lot of good documentation, you really need to get in there and try something. Did it work? Find out what happened. Did it go right or wrong? And keep experimenting. So that's kind of the use case that we've gone with when we've designed this feature. So in this case, it's already configured, but you can see, like the basic thing that you would expect for this particular type of integration. URL, you can pick different methods. So, if I had a get, my body would disappear, right? Gets don't use a body in the HTTP world. So it's a responsive UI that tells you what is expected based on what you're picking. You can have parameters here. So this is actually what's tied into, based on this particular API, this is what showed us the age, the gender, and the emotions in the response, which allowed us to then show it on the UI. So all the things that we're doing here in this call are then powering what we built in the Appian UI. We've got headers here. In this case, we take an API key in order to authenticate, so that's actually held in a constant. And you can use expressions in all of these fields, or you can just enter them as literals. There's no reason that you have to go with expressions if you want to stay completely low code. In the body, I'm actually just referencing a rule input, and that's because if I were to just call this for a hard-coded URL, well, that's great. I can analyze exactly one image forever, right? But nobody really wants to do that. You want to build a service that can analyze any image, and so you can actually go and make that a rule input, just like you can with a lot of other objects in Appian. So here I've added image URL as an input. Now that makes this, when I save it, a reusable object that's an integration. It takes one parameter, which is the URL that you want to analyze, and it's going to return the result of that analysis. So now you can imagine that if there's a more complex API, or maybe if your use case calls for those parameters to be passed in as inputs, you can do that. I want to look at the age, or maybe I don't want to pay the price of waiting for certain deep and expensive calculations. I can actually tailor this for whatever I want in that particular use case. The point is, you take the existing API, you wrap it with an Appian object, and you can expose it however it's appropriate for your individual use case. Now, in this case, I'll just take an example here. And so we have a rapid way of populating this as a test, and I can test the request. All right, so something went wrong, of course, but it's telling me that something went wrong, right? It's very clear that this integration didn't work, and although it's clear to you, it's probably not as clear to me because I'm having a little trouble reading all of that text from over here. But this is where that feedback loop starts, right? You see an integration, it's not working. Why isn't it working? You have access to all of the data that's coming back. You can actually look at the raw request, which in this case is those parameters that we passed in. This is actually, so like you get on the phone with the person that you're trying to integrate with, and they say, well, what did you send? You say, I don't know. Well, no, now you do know. You can copy and paste this into an email and send it to them. This is exactly what I just sent you. Why didn't you receive it, or why did you return the wrong thing? And of course, you can also see the response. Look at that. Because I copied and pasted too much data, right? But it only took me 2 seconds to figure that out once I could actually read it. Did I get rid of all the spaces? Somebody can help me out? All right. All right. Now test again. This is impromptu turning into a wonderful demo. All right. So now success, right? We've got the answer back, and I can look into the bottom here, and this is the raw data that the service is returning. So we've made the call, we've got the raw data, and now all I have to do is go into the UI and be able to expose this in a nice, friendly, visual way to my end users. So now I've been able to create an integration. I can save this and reuse it in the UI. I can use it on that interface. I can use it at somewhere else. I can use it in, say, like a process node to make a decision. So that's the example for face detection, and I think that the next video actually worked, so I might skip back to that so that we can do it that way, if I can figure out where my mouse went. All right. All right, so something a little bit, oh, now it's going to play? All right. No. I'm sure I did. Okay, there we go. So now we're going from the face detection to the Twitter search, right? Fairly basic use case, but at least it shows something that everybody's familiar with. So we're able to go in and we can search for like at the Appian 17 hashtag, see what people are saying about the conference. If you were to search this now, you'd see probably a lot more stuff than when I recorded this video a week ago, because everybody's here and they're all having this great social media interaction. So maybe we can search for like Appian or NASA. They've got a really cool feed, so you can see what's going on. So again, let's flip over to the integration designer and see exactly how we did that. In this case, initially I'm looking through. I've got all my parameters set kind of the same things that we just saw in unify test. Again, probably the first time you test your integrations, right? They never work, right? So if you're getting your first time more than 50%, you're doing better than me probably. Again, I can look at all the diagnostics to figure out exactly what's going wrong. And in this case, the body of the response, again, it's telling me exactly what the problem, well, there was a credentials issue, right? And if anybody who's used a current integration like HTTP query and Appian, and you're frustrated by the fact that you don't get that body back when you have an error, well, these are going to give you all the information whenever you need them. So I needed authentication, so I can switch to basic authentication. And in this case with Twitter, we're doing kind of their two-legged OAuth, and so they've provided me a client ID and a client secret. I can go and I can log that in here. It's all going to be stored securely. I don't have to go to the admin console to create a secure credential store and pass a key. I'm just storing the credentials right in here. Now I make the call. Everything comes back successfully. And that means I now have the information. And in this case, I'm actually using this call to power another integration using that information. And we also provide inline information about how those credentials are stored. So if you're a new user, you can come in, you can see exactly how they're stored and how you're going to work on transporting them across environments. Because again, your credentials for dev are probably different than your credentials for test, different than your credentials for prod. So we support that stuff all natively out of the single designer. All right, so one more quick demo here. And in this case, it's text detection. We're using a Google Cloud Vision API. So you can click on all these different images, and the Google service, which we're going to send the document to, will actually send us back, here's the text that I found in that image. Right? So that's a pretty cool service. Even in cases like this where it's a little bit tough because there's not a lot of contrast. Now this is the UI. So this is the interface designer, not the integration designer. But we're showing you that in the place when you click on that image, there's a save value, right? And that's where we're actually referencing this object that we just created. So it's just the same as your other objects. You create an integration, you can call it in an interface, you can call it in another rule, you can call it from across the dimensions of Appian where you want to have integration be injected. All right, so that's the end of the videos. Now I have another one which is a little bit more interesting. And this is based on an actual real use case that Appian Engineering is going to use internally. I've got a site here. This is the same demo site that we have downstairs, by the way. So this is the Philips Hue smart bulb. I don't know if you might have them in your house if you like to have really crazy lighting that you can control with your phone. And the idea here is that our engineering teams who are working hard all the time to deliver the software that's core to our business, in engineering, the core mentality is don't break the build. Right? Nobody ever wants to break the build. If you break the build, you get blamed, and that's never a good thing. So we have different teams. They're working on all the different parts of the product that we bring to you guys, and each of those teams is going to get a bulb. And it's going to be wired into the build status for that team, and when your build breaks,
Everyone's going to know.
Right? Not only are the engineers going to jump at it and start fixing it, but the bulb's also going to go red. So you're going to be able to stand on our engineering floors and look down the hall and see who's broken and who's not broken, right? Which is great. And I mean, yes, okay, we're only turning on a light bulb here, right? But if you think about Appian as a software business, and so this is actually one of our core business processes, and getting this right is really important for our business. And making it visual, making it in your face, will make it that much more incentive for our engineers to get to work, fix the problem, and turn that light back to being green. So bringing that status into the real world is actually a really big incentive for us. And so that's our core business process. You guys can think about what your core business processes are and how touching the real world with your integrations would actually be a big boon for what you're doing. All right, one last thing to show you very quickly, and unfortunately this one is not as exciting as turning on a light bulb, but it's very important, right? We've got records. Records are a core concept within Appian, and for some of you, you probably know you can do a service-backed record or an expressions-backed record where the data is not actually stored in an Appian data store, or that's not stored in process. It's actually just sourced directly from an external system. And so that's what we have here. And the key.
See what you're looking
Oh, well, yeah, sorry about that.
I'm guessing they probably didn't see the bulb either.
Oh, yeah. That setup, that's the kind of things you tell me before I go all the way through the end of the presentation. So we have a record list here. And the good news is any of that demo that you didn't see, because I saw it and you didn't see it, is available at our booth down at the Appian station. So you can go try it out yourself, actually, after this is over. But you have records, and we're sourcing these records externally. Now, in some cases, you might be calling a record API from one source system. But a lot of times, your data might be spread across multiple systems in the enterprise, right? And how are you going to merge those things together? Well, there are ways to do it in Appian, but in this case, we're actually using MuleSoft as the way to merge multiple different back-end systems into a single API, and then we're calling that API. So I'm highlighting here that we've got some Salesforce data and some MySQL data all being merged together into a single record list that's actually, again, this data is not in Appian. It's being sourced directly from these source systems, and so I can still do all the things I need to do here, right? I can click in, I can view a specific customer, and this would have obviously like all of your customer data. Maybe even here now you could enrich this further with additional integrations from other systems. But you can also do things like update this, and of course, because this data is coming from multiple systems, it's very important that when you do an update, it writes back to the right system. So again, the MuleSoft layer, because they built it that way, is going to automatically handle the write backs to the appropriate system. And I'm not going to go into much more detail because Brett is going to tell you all about how they do that. No, there's the window that was supposed to open. All right. So just a couple of kind of recapping highlights, right? The integration designer is bringing low-code integration for HTTP to Appian, so you can build reusable objects and use them from within Appian. You can enter the credentials directly in the designer, which is a big improvement if you're not allowing your designers to be sysadmins. You don't want to have to go to the admin console to manage secure credentials. You can get that rapid test and feedback, which we got a great look at here. And so obviously having access to all the information you need to solve problems is going to help you solve those problems faster and make sure that your integrations are working. And because we're starting with the low standard protocol with HTTP, it's actually very broadly applicable, right? You can access a myriad of services using just this existing capability, and obviously with this major investment that we've been making, as Medhat said, like joining engineering from our professional services side, this is 6 months, and we're going to continue to work on this. We're going to continue, as Matt said this morning, making a major investment in integration and continue to take this low-code approach to an ever-growing list of specific implementations to help you guys integrate with the systems that you need to.
All right, thanks, Jacob. And so I want to a little bit of the approach we take for integration and why are there 1,000+ companies using MuleSoft? To start with, how many people in here, if you had to call an API like with Azure or something like that, no OAuth? Mm-hmm. So 3 or 4? Mm-hmm. How many know the APIs for Twilio if you wanted to send a text? Mm-hmm. Out of your process. Okay, another 3 or 4 over here. The beauty that MuleSoft brings to the table with all these connectors that we have out of the box is we eliminate the need for you guys to know, how do I provide OAuth credentials to Twilio? How do I use what API do I use? So it's more like picking from a list if I want to send a text instead of reading through the Twilio documentation to find out what method you need to call and which API to do that. So I like to say we make it, I'm an old COBOL guy. That's the last thing I got paid to code. So we make it so mere mortals are able to actually use all these wonderful applications that the people down in the valley have built. So to do that, in Appian, you guys are familiar with the data and the interfaces and the processes and all the task sort of things that you can create out there. But when it comes time to integrate, like we talked about here, if you went directly to MySQL, or you went directly to Salesforce, you're building that, what we used to call spaghetti, or that spider web of point-to-point integrations, that when the subsequent or the replacement for Salesforce comes about, you're going to have to go and touch hundreds of processes that you've built to move to whatever replaces Salesforce, which there will be something. Every application is replaced eventually. So what we have is kind of a better way to do that. And to reflect that, let's think about Suchi, who comes out here and is our marketing director. And she's gone to a conference in Vegas and decided we're going to move from Siebel to Salesforce for our CRM. Now, Brandon, who's responsible for all these business processes that they've built and leveraged Siebel in, is thinking, how many processes did we build that access Siebel data? Do you know how long it's going to take me to change all of those processes? And do you know how much money it's going to cost? And then at the end of it, the business gets zero benefit out of going through a 2-year, multi-million-dollar migration to Salesforce just because we're switching CRM platforms. Now, granted, they're going to get benefit from moving to Salesforce from Siebel, but you're spending an extra $2 million to just change the integrations. Now, there's a better way to do this. When this got started, when Jacob and I built out the demo, was we sat down and we said, let's do a customer onboarding example. And so we defined the API for what that customer onboarding, what data would we need in that particular API. So we came out here and we said we're going to need to do creates, reads, updates, and deletes against customer data. We defined what that customer data was. And I turned on this, what we call a mock service, which immediately turned back dummy data or sample data, if you will. And Jacob immediately started going off and building the process in Appian to create a customer. While at the same time, I went through and started building APIs to pull data out of the MySQL customer database, where down there you see my bill to street is where my actual street address was stored. And then in Salesforce, they call it billing street, because no vendors can ever agree on what to call even the basic things like street, city, state, and zip, right? So with these system APIs, what I did was to create a common, or map those to a common vocabulary, and then as you see on the screen, just with drag and drop like you're used to in Appian Modeler, be able to insert into a database, update, and so on. So now that I've got these system APIs in place, I can easily orchestrate, for example, when I'm doing a create on customer, if the customer is in the USA, I put it into the Salesforce instance. If the customer's not in the USA, I put it into the MySQL table. Now, this actually is all the code you needed to do that, okay? Or if you call it code. Okay? This is all that you need. You draw the picture to do it, and then because these guys are mapped the same way, it's very easy to go and move things back and forth between those. So that drag and drop orchestration becomes reality as I expose these or create these system APIs. Now, what's that mean for Appian? What it means is, as we're defining these business processes up here, I simply call my customer process API and feed it the data. In that customer process API is where it says, oh, you're in the US, you go into Salesforce, you're not in the US, you go into the customer. And if we come up with an acquisition where now I've got SAP data, okay, then I could easily pull that in and not impact what's going on in Appian. This interface between Appian and the customer process API would never change. And I can roll in and roll out applications at will and never impact any of those business processes. And so as we think about growing this out more and more, the more applications you have, the better your ROI and the faster you're going to be able to do things, because I'm not having to learn now how do I integrate with NetSuite and what are their APIs and do they use OAuth or do they use something else? All of that's hidden through these API layers that we have out here. And it just keeps going and going and going as we move through that process. And so when we're using this, what we call API-led connectivity approach, instead of Brandon sitting at the bar and drinking his sorrows away and wondering how he's going to meet the deadline, Danielle is sitting at the bar with her friends thinking, this is great. We brought in NetSuite and I didn't have to do anything. And so she's enjoying her glass of wine instead of drinking bourbon. Okay? So with that, I'll pass it over and we'll talk about some of the success stories we have.
All right. Thank you, Brett. All right, so I think this has been an exciting presentation so far, and as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, of course, we have existing a number of customers, and I want to share at least one story with you that I can publicly speak about, but I know many of you are already using MuleSoft. I've learned today of a new customer, and we'll be continuing our conversation that happens to be an Appian customer and a MuleSoft customer, and we're excited about helping them out with that as well. So one of our customers is actually going to speak, or actually is engaged with us in the Appian world and going to MuleSoft Connect in a couple of weeks out in San Francisco, is USF. Is one of our shining example of not only speed and power in building applications with Appian, but they had a tricky system, in fact, where MuleSoft helped build a brand new connector from the ground up with PeopleSoft, which enabled our team to move really fast on the application. And arguably, they have one of the most complicated PeopleSoft implementations in the world, or so they claim. So we'll see about that. But between the speed and power and Appian and MuleSoft, we're hopefully able to allow you to even move faster, where you're not locked either by below-the-line systems that are legacy that you need to modernize or connect to, or above-the-line applications that you need to build really fast to adapt to your business changes as we go forward. So what did we talk about? Talked about an exciting relationship that hopefully benefits all of us, you on the customer side as well as Appian, where we can help MuleSoft where they get stuck on some interfaces that their respective customers are not able to do on their own, and vice versa, where there might be depth of integrations that we can't reach ourselves, or we prefer if we go with the speed of MuleSoft would be great. We've unveiled a brand new integration designer. It's really exciting, and continue to invest in that over the next few months and years to come. That's exciting as well. It's not going anywhere. You've seen the API-led approach, which is really phenomenal and innovative from MuleSoft. We're excited about that. We'll actually work together on expanding that as you give us feedback. So hopefully, if you have not signed up for the Lead Customer Program, do so. We would like to learn and figure out exactly what we can build better on the Appian side, how we can orchestrate our tech partnership better with MuleSoft to serve you even better. And then hopefully we can come up here a year from now and talk about you as a success story for that joint venture between the both of us. And with that, maybe we can get one more roar. Is that too much to ask? That's too soon. It's probably too soon. Thank you very much. Join us in the Appian booth, of course, and make sure that you capitalize in escape room and have some fun there. With that, I can take some questions. We do have a little bit of time. So, thank you. Questions, anyone? Yes, please.
So in this example, you exposed how external APIs can be invoked. What about what Appian exposes to MuleSoft? Is that...
So the question was, we talked about examples where we consume external services using Appian. Jake have covered in some of the slides where we expose Appian through web APIs and processes, the RAML exposure that is in Anypoint Exchange. That's one way to expose Appian as a service to external systems using MuleSoft in this example, but there are other examples that we can use as well. That's a good question.
Yeah, and I'll just add, with that, if you take that RAML that's in Exchange, then you can actually apply policies, security, governance, logging, encryption, those sorts of things to those Appian business processes.
How is it different than any other API? Like, is there a tighter integration? Because if it looks like just an API, then it's not anything special.
Correct, yes. I mean, you could do that with Apigee, Mashery, Layer 7, any of those. The difference is if you're going to be using us on the bottom side to be able to expose your core assets to make that easier, then you could use us for the top side as well.
Other questions? Are you guys excited about this? Say that one more time. All right. Thank you very much. One more question? Okay.
I think I was looking for a live example of enterprise use case of Appian and MuleSoft, which is not covered in today's presentation. The use case very simple right now.
From a demo standpoint, but we do have serious enterprise applications. Happy to probably talk face to face a little more. They span from insurance to banking, and some cases I can't just say the name, but we can talk. Yeah, absolutely. Can talk offline, definitely. Thank you for that question as well. All right, one last time we're going to try this. You guys are free to go. Any last? All right, thank you very much.